Well, hello. Welcome to the Art of Renovation Live. I'm your host, Paul Foster from Contact Renovations and Custom Homes. This week, we are talking about renovations and home resale value. And that's a super common question that we get when it comes to renovating is, what will this do to the value of our home, right? And, there's some things that we speculate as contractors that would be of benefit to you in resale. But I think the best idea is to consult your trusted realtor. Speaking of trusted realtors, today our guest on the show is Ben Loates. He is from the Good Real Estate Company. So we're going to kind of dig into this today and talk about some myths, some kind of grenades not to catch when it comes to renos and expectations for resale value, and generally just some good advice about how to proceed with your renos. And we're going to talk about skateboarding a little bit too, which that might throw you for a loop, but you'll see why soon. So I see that Ben's tuned in here. So before I send him the invite, let me introduce him. Bear with me here. I'm just going to pull open our info so you know who I'm talking about. All right. Ben Loates, realtor, the Good Real Estate Company. So Ben, he's a father of four. He's a former pro skateboarder. He's a social media disturber, real estate agent with the Good Real Estate Company, former child clown. He's been in the industry for 7 years, and he's known in the industry for his outlandish listing videos, his social media presence, having fun, working his butt off, and staying true to himself. So there you go. Ben Loates, the man, the myth. I'm going to pull up another shot here. Bear with me before I pull him on. One of my favorites of him. Bear with me for a second. My photos are all scrambled in here, but here's a good shot. All right, now's a good time to pull Ben in here. Bear with me for a sec. Wait for him to answer, and then we'll get into a variety of topics about real estate. There he is. Hey, Ben.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Right on. So, I guess the elephant in the room is, why is there a photo of a skateboarder on the screen? And I guess because it's something that we realized at some point after we talked about real estate that we had in common, and it's something that is close to both of our hearts, and I think it really helps to mold a person. It's very character building. Right?
Yeah.
And before we get too much further, let's talk about the giveaway item. Thanks so much for offering this up. So we got a $100 gift certificate for Porta Romana out in Spruce Grove.
Porta
right?
Romana.
Out in Spruce Grove. So a $100 gift card. To qualify for the giveaway, you need to ask or answer this skill testing question. Super tough one. What was Ben's former profession? All right, so answer that in the comments. That'll qualify you to the draw, which we'll do at the end of the show today. So Ben, renovations. We kind of went back and forth a bit beforehand about two topics to discuss. And we'll get into renos, and then we'll get back into skateboarding a bit later. We know how important that is to everybody. But I guess, I think we all know, or most people suspect, that kitchens and bathrooms is where it's worth putting your money, right?
Yep.
So what are your thoughts? What do you see out there in the market? And I guess, are there right and wrong ways to do it? Or what are your thoughts in general when it comes to the renos?
I think for sure that is clearly, and it makes sense we'd start this way, clearly the most general and correct thing to do. That if you had, 20 or 30,000 bucks and you're like, what do I do to the house? That you'd probably do that kitchen, or you do your ensuite bathroom. The reality is there's just, obviously, and you guys have heard this a million times, but there's so much time spent in these areas. And as a realtor, just even in marketing and stuff like that, it's the nuts, as they call it in poker. It's your big item that draws people and makes them go, well, the rest of the house sucks, but man, did you see those granite countertops in the kitchen? It's got a lot of weight, a lot of gravitational pull towards someone valuing your house.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, and I would agree, absolutely. The kitchen, you generally will get your money back out of your kitchen and out of bathrooms too, for the most part, because those are like the crown jewels of the home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, for me as a renovator and I guess quasi designer by default of trade, when I walk into a home that's been renovated and it's clear that they just renovated the kitchen, nothing else has been touched, that sometimes can be a bit difficult to swallow, because then someone has the entire house to renovate still, except for the kitchen. And now they need to tie the design of the balance of their home to the kitchen someone renoed, right? So I think you need to be a little bit careful about, you know, how ultimately you design it. And I always say to clients who are planning to do their job in stages, you should have the master plan as to what you're going to do, have a design, and then stay true to it in stages and steps.
It's so true, because you want continuity from what you did with your kitchen. Maybe you want to put those countertops up in the master, or sorry, I can't call it the master anymore, up in the primary ensuite. Dear Lord.
Right.
You know, you want to have that continuity and that matching, and ultimately too, I mean, that comes down to, and Paul, you deal with this all the time. What's your budget? How big is your house? What do you want to work with? And just like, I mean, when we did our own renos in our house, you typically come in and you're like, I want Disney quality everything. And then Paul, you go and write up a quote and send it to us, and we cry. And then we chisel off of that somehow something that works and has continuity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's like, the reality is for us, the kitchens that we do on average are between, say, $60,000 to $75,000.
Yeah.
Right? We do a bunch a year that are 100,000 plus. We do a few years that are 30 to 40K. Yeah. And it's all, what we do though generally is we're renovating a home for someone's long-term personal use. We don't get into flipping houses and prepping them for sale, because it's a very different approach to how you do, you know, the quality of work and the quality of the materials and selections. And, you know, you might not adhere to best practice if you're just flipping the house, right? So I would say that, you know, in renovations in general, I think if the house has been renovated, sometimes that can be a red flag for people. Oh my goodness, who renovated the house? Is this a flip? You know, I think if you hire a reputable contractor that's well established, it can actually bring some value to that.
It makes all the difference. And I'll say this, there's a million times that I've gone through the market, and, you know, I'm physically in dozens of homes every week. And the difference between a professional reno, and I call them Gary's renos. No offense, Gary. My neighbor's name was Gary. He was a retired police officer. He was the most meticulous man on the planet. But for whatever reason, it's Gary's renos when it's not, when it's not perfect. And the difference, like when you go look at 12 homes and you see Gary professional, it's actually, you can feel it. It's tangible. So having somebody professionally do it when it comes time to sell in the future, you may think based on your standard, I think I totally crushed that drywall, or I think I did that. I'll give you one quick horror story, if I may. I remember going into a house that was about $590,000. It was an acreage. The pictures looked amazing, Paul. And we go down into the basement, and you want to talk about Gary's renos. It was vinyl plank in the basement, and he had taken every plank, and like they weren't even staggered. And you know, sometimes when people do it, they make it like way too uniform, and they didn't. He actually just had about 14 planks all in a row, the same length. So there was one line all the way across the floor. $600,000 house. No, Gary, no.
Right.
Don't do it.
Here's a similar example. You know, like we don't do any tile setting in house, because tile setting is something that's for professionals, right? And this is a great example of a tile job that was not done well. You got cupping and lippage, all that kind of stuff. So I have some more like, I guess, what would you call them? Bloopers or whatever, like kind of screw up images will show throughout the show. this is just a good example of like tile setting. If you're thinking about selling your house, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do a quick backsplash tile. Generally, I would say maybe reach out to a tile setter. And not that the average person can't tile. It's just if you don't know the tricks and tips of the trade and you leave something that's deficient in someone else's eyes, you're doing yourself a disservice.
I think so. And another rule of thumb is anytime that some work you do has the terms cuppage and lippage attached to it, it's a very bad thing. Let's just keep those terms away from your personal workmanship.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and even just looking at that picture there, you know, again, for me as a realtor, and I see Michael Waddell just joined. Hey, Mike, he's a top realtor in Edmonton. I bet Mike can say as well, too. When you go through all these different houses and you feel that professional job done, and then you see those other jobs, we don't go in there and go, oh, no, like it's nice, it's cool. Nobody's an idiot. They actually go into those houses and you are devalued because actually it's scarier for them to see that you did it and that it's not done well. So it's actually, if anything, it takes your home off of being a palatable option and just makes everything else look a lot better. True story.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think that, you know, when you start seeing one thing that's done in a suspect manner, it might make you wonder, well, what else is going on in this house, right? So you start to look and want to peel back the onion a little bit and go, what other surprises might be here? So, yeah, so kitchens, anyways, I guess we've talked enough about it. People understand that that's where it's a good place to put your money. And I think that you have to be smart about how you plan it as well, right? Maybe you really want the island, but if your kitchen's a little bit small and the footprint really can't take it, don't force it.
Don't force it.
Yeah.
This is the deal. You can have a space that's not huge and still make it feel aesthetically beautiful and appropriate. It's not about putting everything into it. It's actually about the whole feel. And again, as we walk through and look at stuff, how people feel about a space has a lot to do with symmetry, things being done well and appropriately, and that totally translates to resale. If you walk in and just feel good about it, it's not even about square footage or how big it is. It's actually just about how well done and appropriate it feels. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely does.
Yeah.
I think, and that's again, where it comes to renovations, you know, like when we first started doing renos about 11 years ago, you know, I used to do all the design in-house. And I got a good eye, but I have a certain style. I love grayscale. So, and it turned out after my wife was like, Paul, all your jobs look the same. You need to start working with designers. So we now work with a variety of great designers. And I think that we've really seen the quality of the last impression, I guess, or of that project really, really increase in the end, because you now see aesthetically a cohesive plan that makes sense and really tasteful spots where you can put a little bit of extra, you know, I guess, attention, right, to detail, and it really makes it stand out, right? So I think in the end, if you're planning your own renovation, I think that it's probably worth investing a little bit into consulting with a designer to make sure that your flooring, your countertops, your tile, your paint colors all work, and generally look at the flow and usability of the space to make sure you're not forcing it. And we see it all the time where you get these tiny kitchens with the big island in the middle of it, and everyone's like shimmying past each other. You can't have more than two people in the kitchen, and it kind of defeats the purpose, right? So,
yeah. Just for you to lay your head at sleep at night and be like, yeah, but I have a huge island. It's just not worth it.
Absolutely.
So I got a question for you, Paul.
Sure.
You know, as you branched out of your typical style, are there any projects you've had in the last while where the designer works with the clients and then throws it to you and you're like, okay, that's going to be a challenge. How are we going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. And I think it's something that when we first started working with designers, that was an issue where, you know, the client might have a certain budgetary comfort zone, and then the designer gets involved and designs this beautiful space.
Right.
And in the end, it turns out that, well, the cost to actually build this space or renovate it the way they designed is far outside of the budget. Right. So now what we've done to kind of deal with that is we work really closely with our designers. So we give them allowances and information about, you know, pricing totals for various things, like, well, your sink, we're going to give you an $800 allowance for your kitchen sink. We'll give you $500 for your
Right.
kitchen tap. We're going to give you, $6 a square foot for your flooring product. And
Right.
so we'll kind of set those parameters with the designer in the beginning so they know what to work within. And if the client then goes to the showroom and goes, oh, I'm happy with this sink and it's $500, they know they're bringing their project cost down.
Yeah.
Right?
That's cool.
But if they pick the granite sink that's $1,100, they know that they're now driving the price up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of how we've managed to do that. But still, what we see often is clients, especially when it's kind of their dream space, we call it. So the space for them for long term, when we're renovating for that purpose, people can get, I call it the fever.
Okay.
And they start getting super excited about their project, and all of a sudden their budgetary constraints get loosened up a little bit. They start putting more into the project. They fall in love with certain products. They see these different designs or features, and it can start to go a little bit sideways from my perspective, because I think at the end of the job, you don't want someone to overcapitalize and have buyer's remorse.
Totally.
So I believe as a contractor, it's our job to help manage the whole experience and go, hey, don't forget about your budget. Let's try, work together to stick to this. So that's, something that we work with the designers closely. But for you as a homeowner, if you're going to bring in a designer, I think you need to have that conversation too. Hey, look, our limit on our spend is here.
Yeah.
So please make sure you present to us options for design and fixtures and all that stuff that will fit within that. So
yeah, that's smart. That's good.
I guess I should reintroduce the show here for anybody just tuning in. This is the Art of Renovation Live, and this week we're talking about renovations and home resale value. My guest is Ben Loates from the Good Real Estate Company, and we're going to start chatting with now, I guess. Let's get away from kitchens, and I guess we'll get into basements, because that's something that, we do a lot of basement developments, and I think often people wonder whether they're going to get their money back out of it. And realistically, I think it depends on the client, their home, and their situation. But I'd like to hear your take on it.
Basements are really unique for me. You got to think we've been in a market where it's been decreasing since 2014 to today. And so as you're in that market, and let's say you did a reno in 2015, and you did I don't know, let's say you spent 60 grand, 70 grand on your basement, and it's pretty sweet. And you've got an 1,800 square foot or 1,900 square foot house with a bonus room upstairs. So you did a basement that you're stoked on. In a market like what we've been in, let's say you spent 70 grand on that basement. I unfortunately would have to come into your house 3 years later. So let's say you did that in 2015. I show up to your house in 2018. You show me your basement. It's beautiful. In a buyer's market like what we've been in, I actually have to come in as the bad guy and go, listen, I love your basement. Your basement is amazing, but right now there's so much inventory out there, and we've got 12 other houses that have cool basements, that 70 grand is probably going to give you back 40 if we're lucky. And that has been my story for the last 6 years. And so it's a really interesting thing where if somebody came to me like today, if somebody called me today and said, Ben, we want to do our basement, we've got a house, 2,000 square foot house, we got all these plans and ideas, I'd say, listen, how long do you want to live in your house for? If you can put value into that, you love that basement, that you lived in that basement, that you had family theater time down there, that you made memories down there, and you're cool with whatever, with the value, go and do it. But I'll say this conversely, Paul. If we were in a seller's market, so a basement is like this variable thing that can either give you value or you're going to get hurt on it if you were banking on it. Like if I put 100K into this, I'm getting 100 back. No, you're not. That's not going to happen. However, if we're in a seller's market where the inventory is really, really low, and you not only have this product that has this wicked basement, all of a sudden that 70 grand makes your product that much better, and you can ask for an even better premium. So in a seller's market, it's an awesome thing to have. It makes you that product to sell. In a buyer's market, do it for yourself and hope the market gets a little better later, but let the value be in the time that you spent in it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes total sense. And I guess I would say that, generally when we're doing basements, it is because the family's growing, they need a space for the kids, maybe they need a home office now, whatever it might be. Um, and I think it's a matter of making sure you plan that space. In my opinion, there's two ways to do it. You make it for yourself. You
Yeah.
don't care about
Right.
the resale on it. You need this for you, your family, your quality of life. That's it,
Yeah.
right? Or you do it in a way that makes your house more marketable. So in this picture in the background, this is my head's covering the stairwell, but you come down to the basement and we had this funny space under the stairs to play with. So we made a little bar underneath there and made a little library and,
I love it.
yeah, and it was cool. On the other side, I don't have a good wide angle shot, but we put a little electric fireplace in and, mounted the TV on the chase, right? So, and that was something that's really cool for them, but it's not going to be for everyone, right? You got little kids, you don't care about the bar.
Right.
You don't want the fireplace. You don't want them crawling on that stone on the hearth, right?
It's a very subjective space.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, here's one that we did in a skinny a while back, where we made this basement into a really kind of a multi-use area. So at the tail end back there, there's kind of the theater area, right? And then you have this Murphy bed that folds down. Then you have a little gym area in front of it, and it becomes something where now you have this basement that ultimately has three purposes.
Yeah.
But it's still open concept. So it can be really, when this is emptied out, it's kind of a blank slate.
Yeah.
Right. So I think in that sense, it's a matter of planning your space based on what your needs are and what you're.
Well, and I think a big question there is, how can you give as a realtor, how could I give somebody a generalized, okay, well then what do I do trying to make the best of my decision to have a basement? I think there's a few things from my time walking around and looking at houses where typically what I find where people are stoked either way is just what you did with that space. Wide open rectangles are huge for a basement. People way more often than not just want that giant family space. Like I'd rather it was a big open space and you could put a pool table there and a couch there, or like that. I mean, that, for all intents and purposes, I mean, I love the wet bar. It's quite vanilla in the best way possible. It looks great, but it's like, hey, here's an open space, here's a wet bar. You do stuff with design. You do stuff. To me, because when you walk into other places and you've made it really specific to your family or it's sectioned off, it actually can be the thing that costs you the sale of your home. So maybe if you're ever doing that, designing it that way where it's open, I think that's pretty smart across the board.
Yeah, I would agree. If you're just tuning in, this is the Art of Renovation Live. Today we're talking about renovations and home resale value. My guest is Ben Loates from the Good Real Estate Company. We are now going to transition and talking a bit about basement secondary suites.
Right.
We'll talk about garden suites too. So laneway houses, whatever you want to call them. So what's your take on houses that have, let's just start with the legal secondary suite. Okay. It's all on the up and up. And we'll talk about the illegal secondary suite. We can get into that one next.
Yes.
So how do you see the secondary suites impacting resale? And the cost of developing a secondary suite is significantly more than a standard basement development.
It sure is. You've got to do all of that stuff on the up and up. You've got to have your second furnace system in there, and everything permitted, everything pulled. Isn't there a second gas meter as well? Like you've got to have.
Can be,
yeah. And my advice, and it's funny, I don't even know what a garden laneway is. We'll have to talk about that. Or what?
It's a small house on top of a garage.
Oh, yes. Okay. So for the basement suites, I actually just had my friend Michael Tash call me today asking me about building a brand new home with a basement suite. And ultimately, when I think of people purchasing a basement suite, it's typically for cash flow and for investing purposes. And so to me, the concept of building, I want to build a house and then turn it into a basement suite wouldn't be smart. You'd want to buy an older house and do that. In that, I think, I mean, what do you say, Paul? It's like if you're trying to do cash flow, um, spend as little as you can while doing good renos. Um, but go a little more on it, Paul, because
Yeah.
I'm
Here, I'll give you something here. You got three things. You got good, you got fast, and you got cheap.
okay.
You can pick two at any one time. If it's good and fast, it's not going to be cheap,
Right.
right? If it's fast and cheap, it's not going to be good, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think if you take that approach and look at how you develop your space, if you're going to make a secondary suite, you need to pass inspection by the city.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking at it's a minimum code stuff you have to deal with there, right?
Yeah.
But then also to keep your costs down, you're going with basically builder grade across the board.
Yeah.
And then on the downside is builder grade isn't always the most resilient and high quality product either. So if you are going to actually use it as a revenue suite, then I think it's I don't think the model works personally. And some guys might do it well. If you can find the right materials and you can get a cheap contract or do some work yourself, it might work, right? But for us, the average secondary suites that we do are about $100 to $120 a square foot. So on a 1,000 square foot basement, we're about $100,000 to $120,000 to put in a legal secondary suite.
Now, why are these people doing this that you do it for? What's their reasoning? Because they're doing it in their own house?
Yeah, usually it's multi-generational stuff. So they have moms moving downstairs or grandma's moving downstairs, or daughter's going to university, but they don't want her to go rent a place. They put her in her secondary suite in the home, right? And it kind of keeps the family together, but with some space of their own, right?
Okay, so here's what I find with those. This is what I find. If you're doing that for your family and that works and that serves a function, that's awesome. Resale is really weird on a secondary suite if it's new and awesome. Because for me as a realtor, I can be like, hey, I've got a 2014 house with a wicked secondary suite, cost 120 grand. You've got 40 products across the board that are all the same size with a finished basement, and they're all 620 or 580. I don't care. And I have to market yours at like 690. I got to market yours 110 grand more. And ultimately I'm marketing that to say, hey, do you want someone to rent below new buyer, or if you are the person that wants to buy that for mom or dad downstairs, your pool is very, very small. And so you're going to be hanging out for a long time. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, I would give somebody advice for the daughter, if you're going to do that secondary suite, actually do it in a way that, because there's ways around it, right, Paul? Like, isn't it, you can't have a stove downstairs if it's not legal? Like there's few.
Right. Yeah. Within the permitting side of it, if you're getting a development permit for your basement and they see a stove in there, they're going to flag that as likely intended to be a suite. Right. So generally, if you're trying to get it pushed through without it being flagged as a secondary suite, you can't have, you can have a wet bar down there, but you can't have a range. You can't have 220 for the range. Like there's certain stuff that will kind of flag it for them. Right.
And this is the one other hard thing is who's going to buy a secondary suite? Typically it's an investor. An investor 9.7 out of 10 times is looking for an incredible deal on a crap house that they're going to put their time and effort into and then make money off of and then sell at a premium, like 15 years later. So the secondary suite's a unique one for me as far as resale, because I would actually dread, I'm just going to be real, I would dread somebody calling me being like, Ben, you got to sell my house for 690. Let's go. And I'd be like, I would soberly let you know this will take a while. We're going to market specifically to these people. The value's there, but we're looking for not an investor. We're actually looking for someone that needs this same problem given the solution you created.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the giveaway item before we go too much further.
Yes.
So Ben has generously given up a $100 gift certificate to Porto Romana Italian restaurant out in Spruce Grove. To qualify for the giveaway, you need to answer this question. What was Ben's previous profession? Here's a hint. Boom. All right. See if you can figure. So put your answer in the comments. and we'll enter you into the draw. And I guess while we got the skateboard thing up, let's talk
Sure,
about
sure.
So, all right. So you were a skateboarder, and you were sponsored by Olive Skateboards, which is owned by a good friend of mine, Randy Jesperson.
Yeah.
How did skateboarding work into your life? How did it become something where that was your profession for a while, and how did it work with transitioning into real estate?
For sure. And I got to qualify, saying it's my profession. I mean, in Canada, the amount of money that you can make being a professional skateboarder is like enough to eat at McDonald's once a week if you're lucky. So it's right, like it's referring to almost the quality that you compete and the quality that you put out of your footage and stuff like that. So I definitely had the privilege of winning the biggest contest in Western Canada for $5,000, which that was 6 years ago, and that was like, whoa, holy crap. But again,
was that the event at Horlack Park there?
Yeah, that was a really cool. That was at Horlack, and that one was really cool for me because I literally competed against some of the best pros in the world and got 9th. And they invited me out to China, and I got to go and compete against dudes who are literally the best today. Like they were 18, 19, 20, just emerging, and I was 33, just vibing. So
yeah. Well, it's good fun for sure. I mean, it's a great sport. I think it keeps you nimble, keeps you young. There's a little funny saying that we have is you don't get old because you don't stop skateboarding because you got old. You got old because you stopped skateboarding.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
well, even this picture right here that you guys are looking at. So I'm on a ramp. There's fire. The background behind this picture is Randy Jesperson, who owns Olive Skateboards, and I've ridden for Olive and still in a way do. He called me one day about 4 years ago, and he said, Ben, I'm burning that mini ramp on my acreage. Do you want to come skate it when it's on fire? This was a text. And I texted him back, if ever my answer is no to that question, just kill me. Always, yes, I want to skate on a burning mini ramp. It was so sick. So, I mean, how does that transition in? I think skateboarding from the age of 14 for me literally eclipsed my entire life. There was so many things about the ball being in your court, and that also that element, and you do get it in real estate and in other realms, but that element of fear and overcoming fear, and like 70% of you knows this is going to be okay, 30% of you knows you're going to die. And I live for that. And sort of that it was such an amazing medium to visibly better yourself. The other thing I loved about skateboarding is that you could never master it. And for some people that would be depressing, but you will never be the best at it. But there's always something more to learn. And it was addicting and still is. I mean, I still skate and love it.
This is my shop. So just behind me here. So we got a little mini ramp, and it's fun. Like I'm old and I get hurt, but I can't stop. Like it's so much fun. So I got to put the masonite on it, and then it's good to go. So I'll let you know when that's ready, and you can come by for a sesh.
I am so there. That
fun.
Actually looks so good.
And it's actually funny. I've kind of started posting some stuff about the ramp, and I've been really surprised to see like people come out of the woodwork in my industry who are
sorry.
Yeah, totally. Who are skaters. And it's, and it's one of those things. For me, it's cool. It's fun. It keeps me fit, keeps me young, keeps me limping, but hey, anyhow, I guess we should move on. Actually, before I do want to give a shout out to Olive. So Randy Jesperson owns Olive Skateboards. And last year, these guys won like top honors, overall winner for the Made in Alberta Awards, which is for small business in Alberta. So there he is on the cover of Avenue Magazine. These guys have been around since I think 1990 or 89, and they've been just, I ride their stuff today still, and Randy's a good buddy, and it's great. Support local, and we're just so lucky that our local guy here is super good at what he does, and he builds a lot of stuff for a lot of big name companies that I can't talk about, but he's the local magician when it comes to building boards. So great to have him around for sure.
He's a magician. He's incredible.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I guess let's get into this. Is going to sound boring for a second, and I'll start with a fun picture of it. Let's talk about insulation. So if you're just joining the show, this is the Art of Renovation
Yeah.
Live. We're talking about renovations and home resale value, and we're talking about insulation. So insulation, should you re-insulate your home before you sell it? I'm going to answer this one for you, Ben.
Okay.
If your house looks like this, the answer is whopping hell yeah, you need to re-insulate your house or address whatever is causing this, whether it be ventilation, whatever, right? But typically this isn't what most houses do, but you see a surprisingly large number of them around in the winter, right? So what are your thoughts when you've got a listing and you roll up and there's some ice damming or an obvious issue?
Well, it's basically this. If there's an insulation issue, and it's like that, I'll tell them, listen, here's the deal. When we go to sell, they are going to find this and they're going to want this fixed because they don't want to buy it this way. Mm-hmm. So you can spend the money right now and get that worked out. You can go in and there's those little stops you can put near the eaves or near the soffits that allow things to be a lot more up and up. And my advice would be, it is literally the least sexy thing about a house, right. Period, end of story. But you'll get nabbed for it. If that's happening to your house or you've got some condensation spots in there, they will find it and we will have to deal with it after the home inspection, which holds up the deal, is annoying. So yeah, my advice would be, if it's clear, right? If you can see stuff, and believe me, every realtor walks into a house and is looking at every square inch of every roof, even though we don't show you. You're looking for all of those shadow marks, ghost marks, whatever it is. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And there's different ways you can approach it. Like anything, you can do the bare minimum what's required. You can make it perform much better if you opt to. Generally, we see if someone's just bought the house and we're renovating it for them before they move in, they want to do it right. So we'll see more products like spray foam, whatnot coming into it, right?
I will be real. I love doing it right and having it done to that level. When I have people say, hey, the insulation's been done, like you could do it like 75% awesome or 100% awesome. When they tout like it's 100% awesome, it's not going to change the value of your house.
Help. No, that's for your own benefit for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to help you sell it. Well, I guess you're appealing to a very small percentage of the population there by pimping out your insulation, right?
That's right. Not Gary, that's Barry.
Barry
is very excited about your insulation job.
Absolutely. So this picture, this guy's actually removing insulation. So now I'll put this up only to talk about quickly vermiculite, asbestos, right? So what are your thoughts on that? So if you're just tuning in, this Art of Renovation Live, we're talking about renovations and home resale value. My guest is Ben Loates from the Good Real Estate Company. And so you have asbestos in your house. What do you do about it? Do you tell anyone before you sell it?
You have to, because they're going to find it. And dude, asbestos is one of the scary buzzwords, just like mold. Water damage. If you're in an inspection and it's like there's mold, literally you feel the room drop. Asbestos has that exact same pull. So if you have it, you have to deal with it. Period. End of story. If you find out you have it, you have to deal with it. You're not going to sell that, or you're going to get a lot of money taken off.
And it's expensive. Like abating is very expensive. We go through it all the time.
Okay.
This is a shot of one of our projects, the 50s bungalow we were doing. We had to remove these two walls, and turned out that there was asbestos in the drywall compound and the plaster. So it was a bummer. It was like $20,000 of abatement added on top of this. And
oh my God,
it's one of those things where, like, if you're planning a project and you want to quickly get in there and do your kitchen reno, and if you're hiring a contractor, you're doing it yourself, whatever, you got to make sure you do your asbestos testing. You need to know before you do it, because if you do it without confirming and it turns out you had it, well, you can make yourself quite sick, or worst case scenario, someone else quite sick. And if it comes back around to you, that's a liability issue. So we have people that we come back, and I hate the email I need to send where it's like, I'm so sorry, but the results came back positive.
Yeah.
And then it's, well, what's next? Does the project go on hold? Do I get the call where they're like, you know what, Paul, give me a month and you can start. It'll be done when you get there.
Yeah.
And that for me is tough because I'm like, well, I'm not going to come back in and start till I get through air quality testing. Then I need to know that it was done properly and it's safe for us to resume. So we won't go into a big long segment about it. But if you've got asbestos in a house, if you have a house that's from the 30s to the early 80s, you should be getting some testing done. And you might want to know that before you list it. Or I don't know, maybe not.
No,
but take it yourself. How you want to.
Let me be very, very clear. It's just a hurdle you're not going to get past unless you authentically don't know and you've never checked. We have to ask you when we list the house, are you aware of any defects in the house? Are you aware of any material latent defects, which is stuff you can't even see or know? If you know and you don't tell us that, you are actually totally legally liable to get blasted in court for selling it if you knew there was asbestos.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it, Gary.
Yeah, same. And same thing with don't just take it out yourself. Like, it's not a good idea. I mean, there's some stuff that can be low risk, right? You have those VCT tiles. That's a low risk abatement. You can follow certain protocols, but then how do you dispose of it? You're going to throw it in the landfill. We got a problem. You get caught doing that, that's a big issue, right? Mm-hmm. So, but you got the ceiling texture. That's a bigger problem. But anyways, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about solar panels. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because in the show notes, you're like, don't even get me started. So let me just grab a photo here and then we'll transition into that, because I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. I know in the end, it's something that's becoming very popular, but whether or not it's actually cost effective is to be determined. So if you're just tuning in, this is the Art of Renovation Live. I'm your host, Paul Foster. Today's show is about renovations and home resale value. This is Ben Loates, my guest from the Good Real Estate Company. Now we're talking about solar panels. Is it worth it when you sell? What's your take, Ben? Let's get it started.
There's not even, and I fully intend this pun right now, there's not even a grid for value on how to resell a house with solar panels right now. It's not, in my opinion, and for what I see out there, it's not widely enough generally done by the public that, again, think of it this way. You've got 15 to 20 products out there, and then you've got your solar panels that you spent a lot of money on, that you're hyped on, that, I saved this much. First, someone has to walk into your house, aside from solar panels, and like your house first. Mm-hmm. And then they have to agree with you that what you spent on those solar panels is worth the thousands more than they could go spend on 7 other houses they like.
Right.
That's a really, I have to sweat trying to sell solar panels to my clients who, maybe like your layout, but at the end of the day, it's money and what somebody's willing to pay. And so to me, solar panels is like people driving a Tesla. If you're stoked that you're driving it, and if you're stoked that it's on your roof and you feel great about that, that's awesome. You're gonna be doing that for you. I don't think you're gonna be sold for more money because you have those. And then when I say don't get me started, and no offense to anybody driving a Tesla, very, very cool cars, but it's where the heck do you stick those when you're done?
Right.
How there's so many variables. And my friend Rick Kaminsky in Spruce Grove and Stony does solar panel tiles. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's even crushing it in life. From my end as a realtor, I don't even have a grid for value, and I don't think I can sell those compared to, the market is a beast, man. It'll just tell you what your stuff is worth.
Absolutely. And I think like anything, right? All of the topics you're discussing here, you're doing it for generally, at least for my clients, we're doing it for them, for their personal use to improve their quality of life, whatever that means to them. If having solar panels means they feel better about how their footprint on the environment, well, fantastic. If you have the disposable income to spend it on that,
you fly that flag.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. If you need to put it somewhere else, then do that. Right. But just do it for yourself and know what it is. Right. And
that's right.
if you're lucky enough, you're getting the house that you want at the price before the panels went on and you're getting them for free. Well, fantastic. What a bonus that is. But these things still cost enough that that's probably not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't ever buy them thinking you're upping the value of the home. Buy them because you go to bed at night and you feel like an awesome human, that's what you've got on your house, and you're stoked personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the giveaway item again, just so that we can make sure that we have more than a couple people in the draw. So thank you, Ben, for offering up the $100 gift certificate here for Porto Romana Italian restaurant out in Spruce Grove. $100. You can have a nice meal out there, I'm sure.
So good.
To qualify, you need to answer this question. What was Ben's previous profession? Here's a quick sneak peek. Oh, Romana. What did Ben used to do?
You're pretty tricky, Paul.
There
you're
go.
Pretty good on this whole live video button pressing picture thing, man. Like,
yeah. It's been a work in progress, let me tell you. Let's move on to something a bit, again, not really a sexy topic, but the electrical side of things. Okay, so if you're tuning into the show, this is Art of Renovation Live. Today's topic is renovations and home resale value. My guest is Ben Loates, the Good Real Estate Company. Now we're talking about electrical upgrades. Is there value in them for you when you sell your home? So if you have a panel like this, which looks like a 100 amp panel and it's nice and new, well, you're loving it. It comes with the house, you're golden. If your panel looks like this, you have a 60 amp panel. That's a bummer. And Ben's going to tell you why.
All right. So does the new panel add value to your house? No. Every panel should be like that. Does having an old panel take value away from your house? Heck yeah. Right? And so depending on what your situation is and how quickly you need to sell or the marketability, and depending on where the market is, where again, if you're in a buyer's market where there's 30, 40, 50 options out there and 25 of those options already have updated panels, you're just lost, period. There's too many other options. Someone's just going to pick another. And so no matter how hard you market, no matter even what your price is, you have to price super competitively to deal with that. And even then, you'll get a home inspection, and they're still going to try and get money to get the electric. Did you hear the headaches? So it's like if you just get that dealt with, you at least get to compete with all the other products. So it's to not have it done is way more negative. Having it done, even for me to say in a listing, hey, it's a new electrical panel, most people will go, yeah, good, great. Most are, right? So it's so I think that's basically it. Yeah,
it's only a couple grand, generally speaking, right? Just get it done. If you need everything, if there's some circumstances, it's a bigger job, right? But
and then just think about even just how nice it is to have a new panel and electricity running correctly through your house. There's that alone, right? Yeah, that was easy. I think we nailed that one, Paul.
Yeah, I would say. And often we talk about pot lights and stuff like that too. I think we know there's good value in that. So as you plan your renovation, I think nobody wants to see the occasional centralized light fixture. I think that you should put the pot lights in, and what it does to the space. If you look at this, you get a nice grid, nice even light distribution. Put them on dimmers, split them up into different grids. It's great and really makes a big difference within the house, how it appeals to people, and generally the quality of the lighting within the space.
Oh, I wanted to say this. Here's a little secret. Everyone doing kitchen renos. I don't care if it's 20 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand. You ready for this?
Yep.
Under mount lighting.
Oh, absolutely.
You do
all
that.
Day long.
You just went from like regular kitchen. You flick that switch. Are we on HGTV?
Right.
That is straight up what happens. I don't even care if it's a $15,000 job. Get that undermount lighting and it'll blow minds.
And it's not much to do it anymore. No. Depends how you do it. Like any process, there's the easy path of least resistance, and then there's a really nice way to do it. Either way, you can have the look. It's the finish you need to put some attention into. So while we're talking about lighting, I got a couple of pictures I want to show you. of please don't do things like this. And
Okay.
if I can find the picture now, I will show you. First of all, oh, my head's in the way. It's got this decorative medallion on the ceiling. That light's supposed to be in the middle of it, right? So when you're planning your lighting, like this is some sort of, you wanted it above your table, I get it, but anyhow.
Yeah.
And then here's another classic. I don't know if you've seen this one before.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, it's a good one as far as you need a good plan when it comes to lighting. Otherwise, it can really backfire. It can really can really be a bust.
Unless they did that on purpose. Nobody actually knows. I mean, it could have just been a preference.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a bit about plumbing. What's a good spend in plumbing? So this is the Art of Renovation Live. We're talking about renovations and home resale value. My guest is Ben Loates, the good real estate company. And we're talking about plumbing upgrades in the home. This image does not portray an upgraded bathroom. This shows some sort of a nightmare. Please do not do it this way. This one as well. It's a tough shower head to use. But generally, aside from these two joking images, what are your thoughts about plumbing upgrades? And I guess let's talk about something like the hydronic heated floor.
Right. This is an interesting one. In my opinion, in-floor heating, which is so freaking cool, and one of those things that when you move in and physically live in that house, it's a gift that keeps on giving. However, I find it is not mind-blowing for if you're asking for more value for it. I find you're not going to get the bang for your buck for what's out there. The market, again, depending on where it is, kind of eats up the cost of that, and it just becomes this one sentence extra feature. Like, it's not like there's like 5 houses. Do you want this one, this one, this one, this one? And they're all pretty similar. And then you go, oh, but this one has in-floor heating. And they're not like, what? I'll buy it today. Like, it doesn't create that. Although, in my opinion, it totally should. It is
I agree.
A sick upgrade.
I would be all over it.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be just some more education. Okay, Poly B, this is a big one.
Yeah. So PEX versus Poly B. So Poly B, if you have Poly B plumbing in your home, kind of like, not to the same extent as asbestos or mold, but it's something that Poly B's become very well known within the industry to be problematic. You should get it out because it has a pretty short lifespan. What are your thoughts?
This one is definitely a gray area. Gray.
Also, how to identify Poly B is it will be gray.
Thank you. But I really do mean it. I have sold in the most high-end neighborhood of St. Albert a $760,000 house full of Poly B, built in 1990. I have sold houses that are small with Poly B, and it's gone both ways with buyers. So you're right, here's somebody, let's say you've got somebody right now that has Poly B, and they're looking at their renos, they're looking at their budget, and they got a big, beautiful house. And like, Paul, how much would it be, let's say, for you to go into a 2,000 square foot fully finished house and completely put PEX in? 20 grand, 25?
No, less than that. It depends. Okay. With your second story, it's going to complicate things a little bit. In a bungalow, it's far easier. Depends how many bathrooms, are there, heat circulation runs, are there like recirc lines, stuff like that too. But in a bungalow, I think we just did one. It was about $6-7 grand to do it. Probably in a 2-story, maybe you're up at 10-15 grand.
Here's the deal.
If the walls are already coming out. Yeah.
Here's the deal with resale. I literally, it's a 50-50 issue. I have had people walk in, and I educate everybody every time on Poly B, and you'd be surprised how many people don't know about it. And what I tell them is this, it was an issue here. They had class action suits against it. In Alberta, they started putting the brass corners on to try and remediate the issue. Some houses have had them for all of this time, never had an issue. And some houses, it was a complete nightmare. So you're really tossing the dice. And my advice to my clients is it's kind of up to you. At the same time, sometimes insurance companies want to double or triple your premium to buy a home with Poly B. Some of them don't care. So it really is this gray area. Like that house that I sold in St. Albert, I mean, how do you say to, Victor and Susan, who have lived there for 35 years without a single issue, who are selling their house for $700 grand, we want 15 to 20 off. And they're like, pound sand. I've never dealt with this. This isn't an issue. And I've had it where clients have walked away because of Poly B, and
Yeah.
I've had it where they worked $10,000 off because of it. So if you have the money to do it, you're definitely stopping yourself from having issues later. But if you're like, I could go spend 15 on my ensuite, roll the dice. It's your call.
I think, in my opinion, if you're going in there doing a renovation anyways of any significance, you should just do the Poly B at that time.
I
Get
agree.
it out of there while you're in there.
If you're
But
already,
you wouldn't go in there on its own and go do that, because now you're creating far more work for yourself.
Exactly. If you're already in there and you're already dealing with the plumbing, as if you're going to build a new ensuite with Poly B piping. Like, you're not going to do that. You're like, dude, I'm not attaching this new stuff to this old stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question here from Hometown Fanatic about, what about solar panels in the winter? Are they realistic? So I guess I can field that one. They can be. Depends on how you've had them installed. If you have them on your roof on a flat surface, you get a flat roof, that's going to take some ongoing snow removal for you to make those things work. You can get them on slanted solar panels, like on a mount, so they're at an angle, so the snow will kind of slough off. You can get kind of almost a heat trace that's built into them to keep it off. So the challenge is going to be where they sit in orientation on your roof, how much direct sunlight will they get. I think that we get enough light in Alberta. We're lucky that generally it is worth it. You have to just make sure, like anything, you plan it well to maximize your exposure. And any good solar contractor will sit down and run that model for you, where they basically take your house, its orientation on the earth, and they run the model to show how much energy you'll be able to produce based on daylight hours and exposure to sun. Okay. So we got a few minutes left here. So Ben, do you have any closing remarks, comments, questions? Anybody else out there? You have any questions? Fire
well,
away,
I see.
Answer.
Yeah, Alicia Wheeler said, what type of basement suite would make your pool larger for resale? What layout elements should I include? Well, I guess for that, you'd have to qualify, are you buying an old bungalow and making a rental basement suite, or is this a basement suite for your family? If it's a rental, dude, put 2 bedrooms in, a nice bathroom, a big old living room, and a good kitchen. It's really, really simple. The better quality of your renos and the better you are at picking who your renters are, you'll attract a better client. That'll give you a better return over the years. If you're doing a basement reno, I'd throw this one at you, bro. If you're doing a basement suite out of love, out of family, what would you do, Paul?
You would make it how you want it for yourself. In my opinion, if you're doing this for your daughter or for your mother to move downstairs and live there, at that point, it's not a revenue stream for you anyways.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
That's where you put in the heated floor tile. You put in the under cabinet lighting.
Right.
You upgrade
the
awesome. Finishes. Yeah, you make it awesome. You make it like a wonderful little home in your basement.
Yeah.
Right. That's my opinion.
And I'll be real, I actually love funky basements. I would much rather personally walk into one that is your fingerprint down there than a regular one. Like, as much as I talk about resale, I like one that's just bursting with personality and character. I love those old 70s basements with like giant gates before you go downstairs and some weird ornamental fireplace. And I wish we had more of those these days, but in 2020 style renos. Like, I just love a great basement.
No doubt. All right, so I guess we'll wrap up the giveaway item here. We got a couple minutes left. Instagram just turns me off at 2 o'clock. There's no running late on this one. So the giveaway item was $100 at Porto Romano out in Spruce Grove, Italian restaurant. We'll shout out to the winner here, who, bear with me, is, I'm waiting for the text to come through from my marketing guru.
Ooh.
Give me a second here. Tracy Van Berg. You are the winner of the $100 at Porto Romano. Congratulations. Good for you.
Your life will never be the same, Tracy.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Ben, for coming on the show and for offering up the giveaway item. If you have any questions about real estate, talk to Ben. He knows a lot about it. He's great at what he does. you have questions about renovations, talk to me. I'm happy to help you out with it. You don't need a general contractor. You just need some advice. Happy to help you out still. This is the Art of Renovation Live. We're here every second week, every second Tuesday, talking about different things in the marketplace that might impact your renovation, your home, ultimately your life. So if you have any questions at all, reach out to the office. We're happy to help out. Again, Ben, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Yep.
We'll get together for a session in the back here sometime soon.
Can't wait.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.